Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome back finally to another installment in my Dragon Hoard series. A series of videos where I just flip through the Dragon magazines that I have in my collection. So today we are taking a look at issue number 286, and this is from August of 2001. And this one features very heavily the Shannara campaign setting. We're not going to go through and read like every single article, but there's a couple of things here that is definitely going to be interesting to take a look at. There's 6 artifacts, 9 heroes and villains, 6 monsters, and the Elder Druid Prestige class. Interesting, like for the Shannara series anyway. The First King of Shannara, I think, is the name of the book. That was the first fantasy novel that I had ever read in my life. I remember picking it up long before I was really interested in D&D. There was like a book fair, a book exchange thing at our school, and the cover looked interesting, but I never really looked at it. I never really picked it up and read it. I also apparently had picked up The Hobbit from that same thing, but again, just never really paid attention to it. But when I started getting into D&D, I found this book once again in my collection, or in my like junk drawer, basically. And I sat down and read it. I really enjoyed the First King of Shannara. I never did get any of the other books, which is unfortunate. But anyway, I might have to remedy that at some point. We also have Painting Chainmail Armies, Servants of Darkness, the Night Cloak Prestige class. Third edition D&D was all in on Prestige classes. I can definitely tell you that. And then we got Steak and Bake, Fight Vampires and Win. So a few things here we're going to have to take a look at. And I apologize, I'm at like an awkward angle trying to manipulate the, the magazine here. So hopefully I don't bump the camera too much. But here we've got an advertisement for the Dark Side source book for the Star Wars role-playing game. Back when Wizards of the Coast was doing it, it was a D20 system game, and the Star Wars role-playing game, like they would revise stuff with like the release of the new trilogy or the prequel trilogy and some other things that were going on as well. So they actually tested out some new concepts or new like spells or abilities that would eventually make their way into 3.5 when that would come out. Similar to how the D20 modern role-playing game also kind of tested some things out that we would see in D20 or sorry, in 3.5 D&D as well. Just kind of interesting, but yeah, we got the Dark Side source book. Then we got the reprint of the cover art, and this is a really ugly table of contents. I don't think I like this one at all. They're normally a lot better laid out. I don't know why. Oh, that's awful. I don't like this one at all. But anyway, we're just going to continue on. So here we got, I'll be honest, with these flip throughs, I might focus a lot more on just the advertisements in the magazine because it is such a time capsule of the era here. So we actually got the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring tabletop battle game coming soon from Games Workshop. I actually picked up a set of the Uruk-hai armies to have as just like some orc figures for like my D&D games. I never got around to painting them, and truthfully, I don't even know if I have them anymore. I think they may have been like in something that was lost in multiple moves. But anyway, tabletop battle game for the Lord of the Rings. And oh my god. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. So I actually have a full playthrough of Baldur's Gate. I think it's a full playthrough. I hope it's a full playthrough. But I did do it on Twitch there like last year. Actually, it was probably 2021, maybe 2022. Yeah, 2022, I guess it would have been. But I actually did a playthrough of Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance when it re-released on like the Xbox Series X. But man, Dark Alliance truly is beautiful. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance is a watermark in gaming history. I don't know about that. The moment you start playing, you realize you're playing something special. I might agree with that one. But I love this game. We got the Beholder fight there with Lord Xantum. We got the Thieves Guild with the fireball traps. And then we also have the frickin' one-hit kills Frost Giants there with the Displacer Beast. for the PlayStation 2. So that didn't last super long because I know it was also released on the Xbox, and I definitely know it was released on the GameCube because that's what my physical copy of Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance was on. But oh man. And then we got some fan mail, I guess you could call it. We always have like the letter sections. I'm not looking too closely at them in these videos, but it might be something fun to do in the future. Also, an advertisement for the Forgotten Realms Pool of Radiance Ruins of Mithranor. So I don't have the computer game, but I do have the 3rd edition module for the Pool of Radiance. So that's really cool to see. And we'll sort of go through the letter section here. This was always really cool to see, like the 3D terrain from back in the day. But man, I like each of these little things was super expensive, if I recall. It was like Dwarven Forge was like, one of these rooms might have been like $50, $60 Canadian, or maybe even more. So cool to see, but not something I was interested in collecting at the time. And we got some novels here. Oh, including the Servant of the Shard. Love that book. That was a great book. And then we got the upcoming releases. So that's interesting. We got Magic of Faerun, which was a fantastic book. The Heart of Nightfang Spire. So that was one of the adventures that was released when 3.0 first came out. That you could run them together as like a campaign that would take you all the way to level 20. Which started with like Sun the Citadel, and then you had like the Forge of Fury, which were both reprinted recently in 5e. In the Tales from the Yawning Portal. But I actually have Heart of Nightfang Spire. So I picked it up at the same time that I got the Ruins of Mithranor book. In fact, I think they were actually cellophane wrapped together. I got them from a game store in Truro, which I don't think is open anymore, which kind of sucks. But every year around April, they would have like a yard sale type of thing. And I remember picking those both up at the same time. So really, really cool stuff. In September, what do we have? Manual of the Plains was coming out. Then you had the Bertrand's Guide to the War of Souls, which was a Dragonlance source book. I had the Dragonlance campaign setting, but I didn't have I didn't pick up any of the other source books that came out with it. And then in October, we had Enemies and Allies and Oriental Adventures. So again, a few things that I never picked up because I wasn't really into collecting at this point in 3rd edition. I started kind of getting more into it with like in 2003, maybe late 2002. Is when I started really getting into seriously collecting. And even then at that point, it was just Forgotten Realms. I didn't really get serious about collecting D&D books until 3.5. But anyway, we got some D&D Clue included in there as well. A little advertisement for that, so that's kind of neat. Then we've got our Up on the Soapbox by Gary Gygax. Again, I might do a separate video series of those in the future, but this is, again, you talk about like a friggin' time capsule, right? Paper or plastic, the Gamekeeper here. You got some, regular board games and stuff. That's kind of neat. But then they're like using N64 games and Dreamcast as that part of their advertising. And, oh my goodness. So, yeah. NHL Breakaway 98. I had that game. It was awful, but I had that game. That's really cool. Of course, you had like the Watermelon N64 from the Funtastic series. Oh man, it's kind of a trip to see like N64 and Dreamcast in advertising. And speaking of advertising, we got an advertisement here for the Forgotten Realms campaign setting. The 3rd edition Forgotten Realms campaign setting is, in my opinion, one of the best campaign source books that's ever come out. I absolutely love that book. And yeah, awesome stuff. Then we got some Dork Tower. Again, not going to go through and read the comic. And we're getting into some of the Shannara stuff now. So we have the Gazetteer of the Four Lands. Again, I'm not going to focus too much on this one, but still we've got that information there as well. So how to incorporate the standard Player's Handbook classes into it. Really cool stuff. Oh, and then we've got our Elder Druid Prestige class. So where is the requirements? We'll look at that first. Okay, so class requirements for the Elder Druid from the Shannara series. Had to be a non-evil alignment, so you also had to have 10 ranks in Knowledge Arcana, 5 ranks in Knowledge History. You had to have the skill-focused Knowledge History feat as well, and then you have to be able to cast spells. Special, must be nominated and trained by another Elder Druid and must forsake all other loyalties to any political power, nation, or deity. Clerics who forsake their deity lose all spells and class features and cannot gain levels as clerics. So not really a lot of incentive to take this class if you're a cleric. That's like a really, really steep requirement there for them. So I don't think that they would be doing it. But with like Knowledge Arcana and History, like I know those are both wizard spell or skills, like class skills, and to have 10 ranks meant that you had to be at least 7th level. So a lot of prestige classes you could start taking around 5th, 6th, or 7th level, but you had to have like the 10 ranks before you can qualify for this class. So I think you had to be like an 8th level character to start taking this one here. It is a 10 level prestige class, and each level you do get to add +1 level of your existing spellcasting class. It also has a D4 hit dice. So again, I think this was more of a wizard thing than necessarily like obviously a cleric thing. But you didn't actually have to be a druid to become an elder druid, so that's kind of interesting. Weapon arm proficiency, being an elder druid grants proficiency in all simple weapons, but not armor and shield. So it's actually better for weapon proficiencies than the wizard class would normally get. Like I said, they do get their spells per day, as if they had leveled up in their previous spellcasting class. But they don't gain like the other benefits of leveling up. Like, so they wouldn't get like the bonus feats or turn undead or stuff like that would improve if you were an elder druid, but your spellcasting would. So they also get communication at 1st level. An elder druid can invoke tongues and comprehend languages on himself as the spells of the same name at will as a spell-like ability. They get Druid Fire once per day per 2 Elder Druid class levels as a standard action. An Elder Druid can summon forth a plane of white-hot flames similar to a Burning Hand spell. This attack takes the form of a 40-foot semicircular burst of fire that deals damage equal to 1d6 per Elder Druid class level. So they get that as a 2nd level ability, it looks like. So it would start with 2d6, and a semicircular, like I don't think very many spells would do that, but basically it's just, instead of it being like a diameter spell, it's just like, it's a weird spell area of effect. I don't know why they did it that way instead of like a cone, a line, or just a regular like radius like most other things were at that point in time. But anyway, it's a 40-foot semicircular burst of fire that deals damage. So equal to, 1d6 per class level plus their wisdom modifier. So that's kind of neat because not very many things would actually do that, add their modifier to it. It was usually just the dice. The target is, or anyone in the area of effect can attempt a reflex save DC 20 plus the Elder Druid's wisdom modifier. So again, this is a very unusual prestige class because most DCs would be 10 plus like your prestige class level, plus like your spellcasting stat modifier. But this is just 20 plus the wisdom modifier, and it's set at that. So yeah, interesting. It doesn't really improve at all at any point throughout unless you improve your wisdom modifier. But starting at a DC 20, like, so if you had, say you had like a +3 wisdom modifier, like starting off with a DC of 23 is pretty good. And that's just an example. At 3rd level, they can sense magic. So they can detect magic and read magic as spells of the same name at will. At 4th level, they get Elder Druid's Resistance. So the Elder Druid's body becomes resistant to poison and disease. They get a +4 bonus on saving throws against poison and disease. And it's specifically a resistance bonus. So if you had like a Cloak of, or was it Cloak of Resistance? I think it's a Cloak of Resistance. So they wouldn't stack with each other. But if you weren't using a cloak, for example, then you do get that bonus. At 1st level, they also get Uncanny Dodge. So they, at 1st level and above, the Elder Druid retains their dex bonus to their armor class, regardless of being caught flat-footed. And at 5th level, they can no longer be flanked, meaning that they were not subject to sneak attack unless a rogue was 4 levels higher than the Elder Druid in this case would be able to sneak attack them. At 7th level, they get Druid Sleep. So the Elder Druid is taught how to enter Druid Sleep, a form of magical hibernation that allows him to exceed his natural lifespan. A total of 28 days out of the year must be spent in hibernation, assuming your campaign world has a year of 365 days. Adjust the duration to about 1/12 the length of the year of your campaign, as long if it's not 365 days. Provided this ratio is maintained, the Elder Druid adds 1 year to his maximum lifespan for each day spent in hibernation. So if you're in hibernation for 28 days out of a 365-day calendar, that's 28 years added to your lifespan. That you can do that every year. If the Elder Druid does not maintain the ratio, the days spent in Elder Druid Sleep provide no benefit. Druid Sleep can be used to prolong one's life beyond that point, but such excessive use brings on additional side effects. See the sidebar. Okay. So the sidebar says, Druid Sleep is a powerful tool that the last Elder Druids used to extend their ability to protect the Four Lands. However, using sleep makes the Elder Druid dependent on it. Such individuals can walk the world for only short times before their energies are exhausted. They must sleep again for a minimum of 28 days. If used too often, the Druid sleep robs its user of its humanity, gradually turning them into a creature of the spirit world, which is what's happening to the rebel Elder Druid Brona. Every 28 days past the first 4 weeks that somebody spends in Druid Sleep must make a successful will save DC 15 or be turned into a ghost-like Warlock Lord. See Heroes of Shannara on page 44. For every 28 days the sleep continues, another will save must be made, increasing the difficulty class by 1. So 16 after 84 days, 17 after 112, and so on until the saving throw fails. Whew. At 8th level, they get the Elder Druid Blade. The Elder Druid learns how to temporarily infuse a weapon with magical energy. This can be done as a free action, provided the weapon is already held in hand. The Elder Druid must sacrifice a memorized spell or use of a spell slot for the remainder of the day. In exchange, the weapon is considered to have an enhancement bonus equal to the spell level sacrificed for the purpose of surpassing damage reduction. A weapon infused with a 0-level spell performs as a silver weapon for the duration of the enhancement. Temporary enhancement lasts for 1 round per class level and is a supernatural ability. So again, this is definitely a 3.0 thing. In 3.5, damage reduction was based off of weapon properties, not the magical enhancement bonus. But in 3.0, you'd have DR of silver or +1, +2, +3, and so on. Incredible memory. At 9th level, the Elder Druid gains the ability to recall any memory with surprising accuracy. This gives the Elder Druid a +5 competence bonus on all knowledge checks. This ability is also useful in combat, as it gives the Elder Druid a +2 competence bonus to attack rolls against an opponent he has fought during a prior encounter. This is an extraordinary ability. And then their final ability is Immolate Body. So at 10th level, the Elder Druid gains an increase, or can increase his abilities at the cost of his health. Oh, okay, that's actually kind of neat. The Elder Druid can exceed his daily use of Druid Fire, suffering 1 point of temporary constitution damage for each use. Oof, that could be bad. This can also be done for spells. Casting an extra spell causes 1 point of constitution damage, +1 per level of the spell. Casting an extra spell level of 5 through 8 also ages the Druid 1d4 years. Casting an extra 9th level spell ages the Druid by 2d4 +2 years and deals constitution damage. The damage is suffered immediately after the spell is cast. So that's actually kind of interesting. Like, this is a very, I don't know how good this class necessarily is. The Druid Fire is pretty good. I will say the Druid Sleep is good if you want to use the Immolate Body feature, because, you know, you're adding extra years onto your life that you're spending as a resource later to cast higher level spells. It's definitely interesting. It's definitely neat. It's something that is kind of unique in that it's the Elder Druid, but you don't have to be a Druid to qualify for it. So yeah, it's a prestige class. It is what it is. Then we've got the heroes and villains. So again, we're not going to spend too much time on these guys here. We'll sort of look through, but I do want to take a look at the items, the magic items. There we got the Warlock Lord. That's the ghost that the druids can sort of turn into, spirit creatures if they decided to. Creatures of the four lands. We got skull bearers, mord wraiths, more cats, the rock troll. It's actually kind of neat. Shadowin. Interesting stuff. And then we got our relics and artifacts. Here we go. So we got the Sword of Shannara. I think the forging of the sword was part of the first King of Shannara. I want to say it was anyway. So the Sword of Shannara is a +3 keen ghost touch bastard sword that doesn't appear to be the least bit magical under normal circumstances. In fact, the blade has sometimes been disguised as with cheap glit to make it appear less of a weapon of legendary power and more of a rejected piece of decorative weaponry. Okay. When its power is activated, however, it is covered in a golden glow that acts like a daylight spell. The primary purpose of the sword is to uncover deception and reveal truth. So that was actually one of the things that they had used to defeat like the major villain. Spoiler, I guess, at the end of that was the sword striking it, like just it ended up revealing some like the truth of the creature and it disappeared or something like that. It's been a long time since I read it. So let's see, so you can uncover deception, reveal truth. Thus, all shapeshifters or polymorph creatures touched by the blade are forced to resume their normal form. They cannot shapeshift again for an hour. Oof, okay. As long as the blade is drawn, the wielder can discern lies at will and is immune to all glamours, patterns, and phantasms. That's actually pretty good. The wielder gains a +10 morale bonus on saving throws against illusion shadow spells and is immune to other spells that use lies as their foundation. For example, the wielder is immune to all charm spells as they instill the target with a false sense of trust. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So some pretty awesome stuff that this sword can do. Drawbacks. The Sword of Shannara is an object of truth, and only someone who has accepted the truth about himself can wield it properly. When drawn, the wielder must make a DC 25 will save. If the wielder fails the saving throw, he is stunned for 1 round. Success indicates that he has accepted the truth of himself and can wield the sword normally. Whew, okay. Then we got the Black Elf Stone. So the Black Elf Stone can be used by any arcane spellcaster who can cast at least first level spells. For some reason, Elven Blood is not a requirement for the Druid. Oh, I guess he had to be an elf as well. The Black Elf Stone was created to destroy and devour all forms of magic. It draws its wielder to supernatural, detecting magic in a 1 mile radius, as the spell can also detect creatures of magical or fairy or fey origin in the same area. The Black Elfstone protects its owner from hostile magic as long as the Black Elfstone is held in hand. It grants spell resistance 35. Oh my goodness. Now again, these are artifacts, so I guess that makes sense. But yeah, spell resistance 35. Let's see. The Black Elfstone's ability to devour magic is truly awesome. The user can attempt an attack to attack a magical creature once per round. Oh my god. The attack takes the form of a ray, so the user must make a ranged touch attack. The effect of the attack is dependent upon the target struck. Any creature with magical, supernatural, or spell-like abilities must make a fortitude save DC 30. If the saving throw fails, the target loses all spell casting, supernatural, or spell-like abilities for 1 day and suffers an effect of the energy drain spell. Oh my god, cast by a 20th level wizard. I mean, these are artifacts, so they definitely don't mess around. So yeah, just again, kind of an idea of some of the things that we can get in here. The Mirror Shroud is a shroud woven from pure darkness. The cloak is so dark, in fact, that it gives a +5 circumstance bonus on all hide checks. And what's its other abilities here? Its primary purpose is to allow Shadowin to get close to a target without being detected. Thus, the Mirror Shroud automatically cloaks the wearers in illusion glamour, making him appear to all who view him as a trusted companion. Okay. So it takes a DC 30 will save to realize that the wearer is not their friend. Again, some really powerful stuff here, some really cool items. But anyway, we're just going to keep going on here. And then we got some Shannara-based Yeah, by Terry Brooks. So we got some fiction in here as well that we're not going to dwell on too long. And an advertisement for one of these Shannara books. The Mind Flayer section. I guess a map here. Shatter Shrees. Oh, I'm not going to try that one. But yeah, it's getting some cool stuff in here. Cities of the Ages, so Venice. I guess this is putting like Venice into a fantasy setting. So that's kind of neat. Fantasy meets history. Rubies of Eventide. Here we got the Night Cloak Prestige class. I already looked at one Prestige class in this video, so I'm not going to focus too much on this one. But if you want me to talk about this one in a separate video, by all means, let me know. Any articles that are in this issue or any of the issues of this series that I work on, if you want me to take a look at them, then please let me know. But here we got Versus Vampires. This I want to take a little bit of a look at here. So preparation, if you know a vampire is in your future, take the following precautions. Negative energy protection. Prepare or buy a scroll of the 3rd level spell, Negative Energy Protection. When the vampire encounter is imminent, the cleric should use this scroll or prepared spell on the party member most likely to fight the vampire in melee. The spell won't last long, so like most cleric spells I'm finding in my days as playing a 3.5 cleric. So use it shortly before the combat. So that's pretty good. Magic Circle Against Evil. Prepare or buy a scroll of Magic Circle Against Evil. The circle trumps Protection from Evil in that it provides an area of protection, granting you and your allies a +2 deflection bonus on armor class and a +2 resistance bonus on all saving throws against attacks by evil creatures such as vampires. Even better, it blocks mental domination and prevents a previously dominated person from responding to new orders, although the victim will still follow the previous orders. So again, that's actually a really cool bit of advice as well. So recently, like I've been able to play a cleric in 3rd edition or 3.5. And yeah, Magic Circle Against Evil is great. And I think the negative energy protection got replaced with the spell Death Ward, which became a 4th level spell. I'll have to see if negative energy protection is also in there. But Death Ward is a must if you're going up against something that does like level drain or anything along those lines. So gaseous form, it's wonderful when you make vampires run, causing them to flee in the form of mist until they return later, completely healed and in greater numbers. This is especially troublesome if it occurs repeatedly and your party is unable to penetrate the tiny cracks through which the vampire flees. Before your next foray into a vampire-infested halls, purchase enough potions of gaseous form for the whole party so you can actually chase the vampire. Truthfully, I don't know why I've never really considered doing that as a tactic, but that makes total sense. And then mundane supplies, you should have holy water, deals 2d4 points of damage, and ignores natural and standard armor bonuses. Garlic is also useful against vampires, as are wooden stakes. If you're caught without a wooden stake, snap the head off an arrow and you're back in business. Okay, makes sense. Tactics, don't split up. That's pretty standard, makes sense. Turn undead. The first thing the cleric should do when a vampire has entered melee is attempt to turn undead. Vampires are harder to turn than their hit dice would otherwise indicate because of their turn resistance, but a 5th level cleric stands a good chance. If the first attempt fails, the second attempt isn't a bad idea. Makes sense. Haste, absolutely. So now 3.0 haste was very broken, but even in 3.5, casting haste is a good idea, and you're going into like a major fight because it gives you an extra melee attack if you're doing the full attack action, gives you extra speed, gives you +1 to your armor class and reflex saving throws. So it's a good spell to have overall. In 3.0, it literally gave you an extra action that you could take. So that could be a single attack. It could be spell casting, like casting an extra spell, which was something that could get really out of hand. So it was nerfed in 3.5, but haste is still really good to have. Overwhelm. Vampires have fast healing and slowly regain hit points each round. The best way to combat a foe with fast healing or regeneration is to focus all the party's firepower on one foe at a time so that the overwhelming damage dealt far outweighs their fast healing. Makes sense. Stay safe, so use prepared or scroll of magic circle against evil, which they already mentioned here before as well. So yeah, truthfully, it's just some really good ideas for like fighting a vampire. I think this is actually a pretty well done article. Purging negative levels, so magic circle against evil, guidance, endurance, prayer, and then you can do things like restoration to get those back. But yeah, really cool stuff. Then we got some Nodwick, Omelets Legion. Here we go. So some chainmail stuff. This gives us the stats for the Slaughter Pit Zombie Knoll. Chainmail had some really cool minis, but it was great. Like a lot of the minis were really great for the Chainmail game, but a lot of them are really bad for the D&D role-playing game because they just didn't have like stats or counterparts that really made sense. Like you had like the Dwarven Thunder Lashers. They were really cool because their whips could stun enemies, and like they were really useful because they were touch attacks again. So they weren't actually attacking like a regular armor class. But whips as a regular weapon just weren't that great. Anyway, we got the Slaughter Pit Zombie Knoll here, 4 hit die creature, armor class 17. Anyway, not too bad. Kind of neat. All right, and just the Arcanum, Silicon Sorcery. Oh, okay, yeah, the Silicon Sorcery articles. These are actually kind of neat because they were like incorporating elements from computer games or video games into your D&D games. I actually forgot all about it because it wasn't, I don't think, a super common article. But this is, yeah, the Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic Obscura. So things like backgrounds, I guess. So if you were born under a sign, your birth was marked by a particular astrological event. Whenever you score a successful critical hit, roll a d6. On a 1 to 3, the hit is instead treated as a normal hit, and damage is resolved normally. On a 4 to 6, the multiplier is increased by 1. Okay, yeah. Not bad. Sage advice. So again, we're not going to look through everything here, but we will take a look at least a couple of the questions that are being asked. And I'm going to see if I can remember what the ruling should be and how close I am to what they give here. All right, so many of the prestige classes in Defenders of the Faith have the ability to cast divine spells, but their levels don't stack for spells per day calculations. Even though both classes are casting the same spells and are divine spells, should you still record the available spells separately as opposed to adding to the available spells together? A similar situation exists for clerics and paladins. So I'm not going to look at the answer, but if you have multiple different spell casting sources from like multi-classing or prestige classes, if they don't say like +1 to existing class level and instead have their own list, then you 100% track them separately. So as Sage Advice has pointed out before, you keep a separate list of spells for each class. And when you're tracking a multi-class character, the spell-casting abilities from your classes don't stack in any way. For example, if you're a cleric and multi-class into wizard. So I did get that right. Cool. So I guess this is focusing on Defenders of the Faith, which is a book that I had for like a couple of weeks before I gave it or sold it to a buddy of mine who really liked that book. And I wasn't interested in getting the splat books at the time. Let's see. Does the Sacred Fist's unarmed damage stack with the Monk's unarmed damage? Does the Sacred Fist's fist ability stack with the Monk's key strikes? So this one I might not know too much about because I didn't focus on monks. So a monk / Sacred Fist use their Sacred Fist unarmed damage, or the monk unarmed damage, whichever is better. Which, again, okay, that makes sense. Does the Sacred Fist evasion or uncanny dodge ability stack with abilities of the same name from the class, or that a character might have from another class? So again, uncanny dodge is a little bit different in 3.0 than 3.5. You would have uncanny dodge and then improved uncanny dodge. And if you had uncanny dodge and then gained uncanny dodge from multiclassing into another class, then you would then gain the improved uncanny dodge ability. So I want to say that they would stack. Like if you had the uncanny dodge from 2 sources, then you would get the better benefit. But let's see what we got here. If the Sacred Fist already has these powers from another class, he can add his Sacred Fist levels to the existing class levels. Okay, they're determined. So a little bit different how they handle it in 3.0. So in 3.0, it's just based on your level. When you reach a certain level, you would gain an additional benefit. So if you had uncanny dodge from 2 sources, you would just add the 2 class levels together to see where you should be at. So anyway, cool stuff. And yeah, some more more sage advice. And get yourself some subculture. Jaundice Valley Dungeon Craft. Okay, so this is something that would not appear in Dungeon and Dragon magazine for too much longer going forward. But yeah, it just looks like a little bit of an adventure there. And some PC portraits. And here we go, preparing for war, painting the war ape. So yeah, I actually have a few war apes and I loved painting them because painting things that are mostly fur is super fun and easy because it's mostly dry brushing. But yeah, awesome stuff there. And the DM's toolbox, combat checklist. Just make sure you got things that you need to run your games. And there you go. I guess that's basically it. A few comics at the back here. And we are done. So that was a look at the issue number 286, the Shannara issue. So again, if there were any articles in here that you wanted me to take a closer look at, let me know, like the other Prestige class or things along those lines. Let me know that. But I'm super happy to be back doing this series of videos, and I'm looking forward to the going further with this, with more and more issues, get through my Dragon magazines, mostly because I just wasn't super into Dragon. Like, I love Dungeon magazine, but I was never super into Dragon magazine even when I was collecting it. So this series is really giving me a chance to kind of look at some of the things that were in there. I really do appreciate that. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this blast from the past of what was this, August of 2001. So I don't know what the next issue is that I have in my collection because I wasn't regularly collecting at this point. So we might be skipping over a few, but regardless, at some point in the very near future, hopefully next month, so sometime in April, I'll have another Dragon Hoard video. But yeah, thank you guys so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Until then, take care.